Okay, too formal, too plain. This is better. By the way, these are almost gone, so if you want one, buy one, because I may not reorder. I got a new shirt in the works though. Yeah. Talking about adaptability. Adaptability. Thought it was relevant because of the forced change that so many of us have had to endure during this craziness of the coronavirus and everything else. It's like nuts. How adaptable or not are you? What part that plays in a healthy and happy and vibrant life? In general, I'm a fan of adaptability. I'm a fan of helping people go with the flow, if you saw my last video. But anyway, go with the flow a little bit more, to not get so entrenched in routine that the routine gains more control over them than they over the routine. While I am a fan of routine, and I think that it's a necessary thing in the modern world to have self-generated constraints of what kind of food you eat and don't eat most of the time. Maybe when you eat food most of the time, intermittent fasting wise, to set these constraints, because it never serves us well in today's world as sort of whatever I feel like, man. It just doesn't quite work, as I've said 100 times. So we, the conscious, intelligent part of us, not the having an overwhelming attraction to an almond croissant part of us, need to set constraints and then set routines, because it helps us sort of not think about those things day to day. Once we set our constraints around how we live, then we can sort of let that go and have more quality time with our families and be more productive and things like that, because we're not negotiating that whole thing. With that said, those very constraints can threaten our quality of life when the constraints themselves are threatened, when we're forced into a change and we're not prepared mentally to adapt. Then we fail, because then we have this conflict of like, but this thing works for me and I set this thing and I can't not do this thing, because then there's like a no man's land of you kind of not knowing where to find your place. Adaptability is crucial. The ability to adapt is crucial to a good life. So there's that delicate balance that I urge people to think about and to determine for themselves, this delicate balance between setting constraints that you control, meaning you're in charge of them. And if they don't work for you, it is always best to be able to change those things. So quickly, like you do a thing, you get entrenched in it, it becomes the thing you do. And then all of a sudden, without even thinking about it, that's become in control of you and you're beholden to this thing that you came up with, but now all of a sudden you can't change it and you can't adapt to something else because this thing has sort of taken over your life. I think that's not a good way to live. I think a good way to live is always kind of question, is this thing working for me? Is what I'm doing day to day working for me? Yes? Good. Then those constraints work. No? Okay, let me have the ability to change those things and create new limitations and constraints so that you are able to thrive. And that's where adaptability comes in. How to fashion a life that is disciplined, and I don't mean like, I just mean, you're paying attention to your frickin' life. Disciplined on one hand, but always adaptable on the other. The solution, in case you're going like, yeah, so what do I do about it? The solution is always going to be more awareness. It's always going to be moments throughout your day where you're checking in, where you get into the habit of checking in with yourself to ask those important questions like, is this thing working for me? Am I happy in general? How is my stress level in general? How do I negotiate day to day in this life? Is being more in touch with your stress levels, frankly, and being able to then have tools via healthy eating and exercise that doesn't tank you, and meditation or whatever deep breathing that is for you that help you minimize that level of stress, will enable you to be more aware when something's not working for you and also be able to better adapt to something new. Here's the last thing I'll sort of say on adaptation. It is up to us, each of us individually, to know the difference between being adaptable, compromise, meaning change when it doesn't serve us, and stubbornness, meaning to be the best human beings we can, we have to have a strength, an internal strength, to be able to say, I can change if I need to change. I can change if, as long as it's not compromising my values and standards, and then I have the strength to not change sometimes. And sometimes I'm just digging my heels in and acting like a 4-year-old when that's not serving me either, because you can't make me change. And if you're saying to yourself, you can't tell me what to do, like wearing a frickin' mask, then look in the mirror and repeat this mantra for me. Okay, ready? I am not a 4-year-old. 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 I am not a 4-year-old.